Okay. Good day, everyone. Our topic is all about the theory. Once again, I'm Natalie Emuyoda, and my topic is all about institutional of art. So, institutional of art is primarily developed by philosopher George Jake, offers a compelling framework for understanding how art is defined and valued. Unlike theories that focus solely on aesthetic qualities, institutional art emphasizes the crucial role of social institutions. So, institutional art argues that art isn't just about how good it looks, but also about how society and its institution recognize it. It's like saying painting is only truly art if museums, galleries, and critics see it. And this theory emphasizes the power of a social institution in shaping our understanding of what art is. And this is the example of institution of art. First, one museum. These are public or private institutions that collect, preserve, and exhibit works of art for educational and cultural purposes. So, museum is a collection of artwork, historical events, interactive exhibits, and educational resources. And it offers a rich, engaging experience for visitors. Kaya po karaniwan, pag may field trip, pupunta po sa museum kasi marami po talagang matututunan. And the example of museum is National Museum of the Philippines. It is a government institution that collects, protects, and displays Philippine historical artifacts. Art schools and universities. These institutions offer formal education in various art disciplines, such as painting, sculpture, photography, and design. And art school is a university na mayroon pong studios, workshop, galleries, computer lab, and these provide with the resources and spaces that they need the students para para yung pagiging artistic nila is mas ma-enhance. And the example po is University of the Philippines, Diliman College of Fine Arts. This is an art school of offers undergrad and graduate degrees in painting, sculpture, art history, art education, visual communication, and it's known for its history and association with their own Filipino artists. And last, art galleries. These are spaces where exhibit and sell their work. Galleries can be commercial, non-profit, or university affiliated. So art galleries in the Philippines is a typically showcase that nagpo-produce ng paintings, sculptures, media installations, and other contemporary work of art. And yung karaniwang mga naka-display diyan is binebenta. And yung example po ng art gallery is Ito Art Museum. It is an exhibition space and contemporary museum located in Antipolo, and it formally opened in 2010. And the difference between museum and art galleries is galleries sell art while museums show art. That's all. And the next reporter po is Jeremy Paliman.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Next slide po. So, my topic is all about is Marxism. Next. So, Marxism is a social, political, and economic philosophy developed by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels in the 19th century. So, it analyzes the impact of capitalism on labor, productivity, and economic development, arguing that a worker revolution is needed to replace capitalism with a communist system. So, next. So, here's the five concept of Marxism. First one is historical materialism. So, historical materialism. So, this theory proposes that societal development is driven by the changes in the material conditions of production such as uh, technology and the organization and labor. Next one is class struggle. So, Marxism posits that society is divided into classes based on the relationship to the means of production. First one is the bourgeoisie. So the bourgeoisie, known as capitalist class, the bourgeoisie owns the means of production, while the proletariat, known as working class, so the proletariat sells their labor to the bourgeoisie. So this creates an inherent conflict between the two classes. So the third one is alienation. So Marx argued that workers in capitalist societies are alienated from their labor, the products they create, and to their fellow workers. Fourth one is surplus value. So Marx believed that capitalists extract surplus value from workers by paying them less than the value they create through their labor. So this surplus value is the source of capitalist profits. So last one is revolution. So according to Marxism, the inherent contradiction and exploitative nature of capitalism will ultimately lead to a revolution in which the proletariat overthrows the bourgeoisie and establishes a socialist society. So next slide. So Marxism and communism. So Marxism is often associated with communism, but the two are not identical. Communism is a political and economic system that aims to create a classless society with communal ownership of the means of productions. Marxism provides the theoretical foundation for communism, but it is not the same thing. So the criticism of Marxism has been criticized for its utopian vision, its emphasis of revolution, and its lack of empirical support for some of its prediction. However, it has also had a profound influence on social, political, and economic thought, inspiring numerous movements and revolution around the world. So that's my part. Next reporter, may we call on Angeline Francisco.
Thank you po, Miss Palomar. Next slide po. Next pa po. So, good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Andreline and Francisco, and I'm going to tackle the socialism, which is socialism aims for the working class to control production and their livelihoods through cooperative enterprises or public ownership, with the focus on self-management. In contrast, capitalism is characterized by private ownership of production where profit is generated for owners and wages are paid to workers based on their market decision. So, hindi ko na po pa hahabain. I-explain ko na lang po siya. So, yung socialism po is one of the kasama din po siya dun sa Marxist theory na binanggit po ni Miss Palomar kanina. So yung socialism po is considered siya as a transitional stage between dun sa capitalism and communism, kung saan yung means of production is primary owned po and controlled by the public, aiming para ma-achieve yung greater economic equality and social justice through collective ownership and democratic planning. Ultimately, nagli-lead para sa classless society under sa communism. Essentially, it's a system kung saan yung production is geared siya para ma-meet yung human needs rather than generating profit for private individual. So in short po, yung socialism it pushes po ng equal distribution ng wealth para sa lahat rather than sa mga iba lang po. Thank you po. That's all for my part. So, for the next reporter po, may I call on Miss Janeline Rodrigo. Thank you po.
day, everyone. The continuation of our report is my part is structuralism. Next line po. Next line. Okay, so what is structuralism? It is the theory developed in France between 1950 and 1960. Began with the work of Ferdinand de Saussure on linguistics. Analyze any phenomena about the world, mostly contrasting elementary structures in a system of binary opposition or a pair of opposite concepts. Description and perception of the structure. It is purely scientific in that structuralists look at only what is observable or sinasabi natin sort of like formalism. Structuralism is a modern literary movement theory developed criticism which was developed by Ferdinand de Saussure 1950 and 1960 and also he known as the modern linguistic. He is considered the founder and as the father and of structuralism and in literature. And when we say linguist means a person who study language or uh, pinag-aaralan nito ang anumang mga pinamang mundo kadalasan sa pamamagitan ng mga simpleng structure sa isang sistema sinasabing binary opposition ay tinatawag nating a pair of opposite concepts. Nakatuon sa paglalarawan ng pangunawa sa structure ng mga bagay-bagay if only what is observable or sort of like formalism. When we come to 20th century, 1900, alam natin na meron tayong mga different theory like symbolism, expressionism, existentialism, structuralism, and so on. All these theory, structuralism ay kinoconsider as the most we have here example ng structuralism. Halimbawa, merong isang brick at merong isang building. It means it is self-complete by structure made of sand, cement, and complete by if only one brick is useless. And no use dahil isa lang siya. Of the same brick came together and make proper structure, it became a building which become very useful for mankind. So the building has its own structure. The brick has pareho pa rin silang may structure. May kanya-kanyang structure. From this example, wherever we go cannot find anything we go can find has no structure. Everything in this world has its own. May kanya-kanyang structure na tinatawag. Next line po. And next po, sa extractionalism fields, sila po yung several theories in fields of structures. Si anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss, psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan, philosopher and historian si Michael Foucault, and literary critic Roland Barthes. Pero dito tayo magpo-focus sa structuralism, the father of modern linguistics, si Ferdinand de Saussure na nakadevelop ng concept for signifier of and the signified which become partial to the structuralist. Next line po. Okay. In linguistics, the linguistic science analysis because on the relationship between words, signifier, and the things in the world that they signified. Nakikita natin sa image, the cat word is our signifier, and the signifier yung image po ng cat. The image explains a core concept in linguistics and the analysis of science. Linguistic science analytics focuses on the relationship between words, the signifiers, and the things they represent in the real world. That is the signifier. A sign is a combination of signifier and the signifier. The example word cat as the signifier, this is the word we use to represent a specific step. The signified is the actual cat pictured. The real world object that the word cat refers to the arrow, yung nasa gitna po ng name ng signifier at saka ng signified. Yung diagram shows relationship between the signifier, cat, and the signified. The entire combination of the word and what it represents forms the sign. In short, analysis of linguistic signs explore how words acquire meaning by representing or referring to something else. It's about the connection between the language and the reality. The example highlights how an arbitrary word cat becomes meaningful because it is conventionally associated in a specific object. Okay, sa madaling salita, ang structuralism ay isang paraan ng pag-aaral naghahanap ng mga pattern o relasyon sa pagitan ng bahagi ng sistema upang maunawaan ng kabuuan. Hindi nito pinagtutuunan ng pansin yung kanilang pagiging individual na kahulugan ng mga bahagi, kundi ang kanilang relasyon. Katulad ng binigay kong halimbawa ng cat at saka ng image ng cat. Pati kanina sa structuralism, yung isang bricks at saka yung building. Sa example ng linguistic, pinag-aaralan nito kung paano yung mga salita naman ay nag-uugnay para makabuo ng isang pangungusap at kung paano ang mga pangungusap ay nag-uugnay upang makabuo ng isang buong teksto. That's all my part of my report, and our next reporter is Ma'am Tin. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon po. My name is Maria Cristina M. Domingo. Ang part ko naman po is deconstructionism. Ano nga ba ang deconstructionism? Nasabi dito na wala daw ba tuturing na isang aesthetic beauty kapag kasi naunawaan natin ito, malaya na tayong makakita ng kagandahan saan man at kahit ano man. Hindi lamang kasi sa mga bagay na karaniwang na itinuturing nating likhang sining. Kumbaga, walang isang pamantayan ng kagandahan. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang sa mga painting, eskultura o mamahaling mga bagay, makikita ang ganda. Pwede rin itong matagpuan kahit saan. Ang halimbawa kasi nito, kadalasan yung isang luma or basag na paso ay maaaring maganda sa paningin ng mga ibang artist dahil sa kanyang hugis or texture. Or may mga lumang gusali rin na sira-sira yung mga disenyo or yung dingding, maaaring luma na. May kanya-kanyang kwento yon. Halimbawa na lang dito yung Intramuros, Manila. Kung nakapunta na po kayo doon, yung mga lumang gusali kasi doon, sira na yung mga pader na nagpapakita ng kasaysayan. Bukod doon, yung vegan sa Ilocos Sur, yung mga antigong bagay na bakas ng panahon ay nagpapahayag na yaman ng kultura at kasaysayan ng bansa. Next. Kung napapansin niyo po, etong gusali na 'to, kung ako po'y tatanungin o kayo po, siguro ang bawat isa sa atin magugulahan kung bakit ganyan yung itsura niyang gusali na 'yan at mapapatanong tayo kung bakit nga, ano ba ang meron diyan, bakit ganyan niyang ginawa. Kumbaga dito po kasi, ang tawag sa gusali na 'yan ay Luruvo Center for Brain Health Center. Tayong halimbawa ng constructivist na architecture na idinisenyo ni Frank Gehry. Yung gusali kasi nito hindi na siya sa tradisyonal na nakikita natin sa kung saan-saan na halos matataas, matatayog, magpapantay-pantay yung mga sukat. Kumbaga ito pinakita dito yung tila baluktot na itsura, tapos mukhang gumagalaw siya kasi ang gusali na 'to ay yung mga naka-ano diyan, yung may mga sakit siya sa utak. Kumbaga yan yung naging representasyon nila, kaya naging ganyan yung gusali na yan. Next. Yan, si Jacques Derrida was a highly influential French philosopher best for developing deconstruction. Kumbaga, si Jacques Derrida, siya yung parang pinaka-ano ng deconstructivist na art, and yung mga work niya is challenge the notions of meaningful authorship and the relationship between language and reality. Kumbaga, siya yung naging parang proponent ng deconstructivist arts na yan. Next. So, isa sa mga halimbawa rin ng deconstructivist ang Guggenheim Museum Bilbao. Paano ba nabuo yan? Noong panahong 1990, yung lungsod ng Bilbao sa Spain ay naghahanap ng paraan upang pasiglahin yung ekonomiya para dito. Nais nilang magtayo ng isang museo na kakaiba at makakaakit sa mga turista, kaya ganyan yung itsura niya. Inanyayahan kasi si Frank Gehry na isang arkitekto na kilala sa pangkaraniwang disenyo na gumagamit sila ng kulot-kulot na titanium panels at hugis na parang barko. Kung mapapansin niyo, para siyang barko. Bilang simbolo ng kasaysayan ng Bilbao, bilang isang daungan. Kumbaga daungan yan. Ang gusali ay mukhang walang tiyak na hugis at isang patunay na deconstructionism siya. Next. Parc de Villette. Paano ito nabuos? Sa Paris, may isang lumang slaughterhouse area na kailangang gawing park. Ngunit sa halip na gawin itong tradisyonal na parke na puno ng mga puno or damo, pwedeng karaniwan kasi karaniwan pag sinabing park, gano'n ang mga itsura. Dito sa Parc de la Ville na yan, gusto nila maging kakaiba yung itsura na para makaakit ng mga turista. Next, Wexner Center for the Arts. Ayan naman, nabuo yung gusali niyan bilang sentro para sa sining ng kultura ng Ohio, USA. Ngunit imbis na gawing mukhang normal na gusali, ginawang parang hindi pa tapos. Kung nakikita niyo pa, yung parang yung mga white, yan yung parang pinaka ano ng deconstructionism o ilang mga mali yung pagkakadisenyo. Si Peter Eisenman naman yung gustong gumawa niyan at gustong ipakita sa buong mundo na hindi laging maayos at symmetrical yung deconstructionism. Pag sinabi kasi yung symmetrical, ayun yung ano, 'di ba? Kung ano yung nakikita mo sa kabilang, kumbaga, itong face natin. Kung ano yung tsura nito, ito rin yung makikita mo sa kabila. Ganun siya. Next. Yan. Normative theory naman tayo. Ano nga ba ang normative theory? Next po. Yan, sinasabi dyan, yung teorya na yan, yung normative theory na yan ay hindi interesado sa pagtukoy sa likas na katangian ng sining at halaga nito. Sa halip, ipinapaliwanag ng mga teoryang sosyologikal ang halaga nito batay sa tiyak na tungkulin na ginagampanan ng sining sa iba't ibang kultura o sa kasaysayan. Kumbaga sa madaling paliwanag ba, yung normative theory ay isang pananaw sa sining na hindi nakatuon sa kung ano ang tunay na kahulugan o halaga ng sining mismo. Sa halip, tinitingnan nito kung paano ginagamit yung sining sa iba't ibang kultura at sa panahon. Kumbaga, naaayon ba yung mga arts ng panahon dito ng sa normative theory kung ano yung meron sa panahon na yon. Halimbawa na lang, sa unang panahon, di ba, yung mga sining na ginagamit bilang mga ritual o mga panrelihiyong simbolo. Nung panahon naman ng Renaissance, ang sining ay sumasalamin sa karunungan at kagandahan. Ganun yung normative theory. Ano nga ba yung mga halimbawa ng normative theory? Next slide po. Yan. Ang Guernica, Pablo Picasso. Kung nakikita niyo siya, napapansin niyo sa larawan is parang may mga nahihirapan. Kumbaga, yung kwento diyan noong 1937, nung panahon ng Spanish Civil War, may maliit na bayan sa Guernica ay binomba ng mga Nazi upang suportahan yung mga diktador na si Francisco Franco. Maraming inosenteng sibilyan yung namatay diyan. Kumbaga, si Pablo Picasso, labis siyang nalungkot, kaya ginamit niya yung sa panahon na yun yung kung ano yung nasaksihan niya, kung ano yung naging emosyon niya. Kaya naging ganyan yung arts na yan. Next po. The 3rd of May nagawa ni Francisco Goya. Yung kwento naman diyan noong 1808, sinalakay yan ng mga tropang Pranses ang Espanya sa ilalim ng Napoleon Bonaparte. Maraming Espanyol ang nag-alsa, ngunit noong Mayo 3, daang-daang sibilyan ang pinatay ng mga sundalong Pranses bilang ganti. Si Francisco Goya ay isang Espanyol na pintor na nasaksihan niya mismo yung pangyayari na yan. Kaya ginuhit niya kung ano yung mismo rin na nakita niya. Kung napapansin niyo sa normative theory, kadalasan ay is sa kasaysayan na kung ano yung mga malulungkot na mga pangyayari. Kumbaga, siguro nung panahon na yan is puro gera, kaya ang kadalasan na nagiging halimbawa ng normative theory is mga ganyan. Last na example, next slide po. Ayan, the School of Athens na Raphael. Siguro lahat sa inyo familiar na yan kasi lahat ng nakadrawing dyan is mga philosophers. Ginuhit naman niya ni Raphael noong panahon ng Renaissance na nagsimulang magkaroon ng interest ang Europa sa isang sining. Si Raphael ay inatasang gumawa ng mga fresko para sa Apostolic Palace na sa Vatican at naisip niyang ipintay ang mga pinakamagagaling na pilosopo sa kasaysayan. Kumbaga sa konklusyon, ang normative theory sa sining ay isang sining na nagtuturo ng tamang pag-iisip at pagpapahalaga sa kaalaman. Lahat kasi ng mga likhang sining na ito ay hindi lang ginawa para sa kagandahan, kundi upang magbigay ng mga mensahe tungkol sa moralidad, hustisya at etikal na pagpapahalaga. Ang normative theory sa sining ay nagpapakita na ang sining ay may gampanin sa lipunan. Ito ay isang paraan ng pagpapahayag ng tama at mali ng laban sa operasyon ng mga kahalagan at karunungan. That's all po. And the next reporter will be... Sino po ba next sa akin? Sorry po.
Okay na po yan. Hindi po nag-respond si Enrique. Kasi nagpa-video na lang. Tapos na. Po, thank you po. Pwede na po kayo mag-leave.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alvin.